This video here today may offend some people, but to be quite honest, I couldn't care less. And so I'm just going to put it out there quite as simply and boldly as this: your potential ain't worth shit. There are so many of you out there riding around on what you're potentially going to do, what you're potentially worth, what you're potentially going to take hold of or potentially take control of. But without the work, your potential equates to nothing other than the potential loss. A potential loss to something that could have been great, a potential loss to your world, a potential loss to your people around you, a potential loss to you. Les Brown has a famous saying, and I say saying, it's a speech, and it's quoted in many videos over the time, and it's one of my all-time favorites. And he says the richest place in the world is the graveyard, because in the graveyard is contained all of the books that were never written, all of the songs that were never sung, all of the deals that were never made, all of the ideas that never came into fruition. In other words, in the graveyard is all the things that were potentially set to take over the world, that were potentially set to make a massive impact, but didn't. And a lot of you are volunteering yourself for that, quite simply because you're not willing to take the steps. You're riding off of the wave of potential instead of acknowledging potential, using the potential that you have as fuel to grind away harder to bring this thing home. When was the last time the money that you were potentially worth ever bought you a thing? When I was younger, I used to hang around with this guy that I'd known since like primary school, and this guy's artwork would set us alight. The way this guy could draw cartoons, he would spend his time doing immaculate and intricate manga comics. Could sit there and draw you any X-Men character, any Marvel character you could think of with the utmost detail. His artwork was awesome. His potential was unfounded. It was massive. The other day I drove past the job centre and saw him standing out there, smoking weed and on his way to Wetherspoons after collecting his check. Potentially could have changed the art world. In reality, didn't do much. I once knew a guy that used to play football in school, and I mean, this guy could not make anyone do kick-ups for fun, kick the ball over your head, had skills that I couldn't really understand, had it to the point where whenever he turned up on the field, I refused to play because his skill was so up there, was so far ahead that no one could tackle him. No one could. Potentially a football all-star. Now, I don't know what happened in his world, but no one's heard of him for a very long time. All that potential just went to waste. Don't get me wrong, the point of this video is not to crap on you from on high. It's not to make you feel bad because it's not your time yet, but it is to give you a wake-up call. A wake-up call, because if you're sat there thinking, I've got all this potential here, I've got all this potential inside of me, I could potentially be the greatest in whatever it is that you're focusing on. You need to realize that potential only gives you a head start. It's not the end of the race. Having potential is not job done, it's job starting. It's your green light. It's the starting pistol that goes off. The grind is still ahead. The way forward, you still got to step, you've still got to do the steps, you've still got to do the work, you've still got to do the thing. Your potential gives you a head start. Yes, your potential gives you a pointer. Your potential gives you a direction to head into. But at the end of the day, without the work, without the focus, without the effort, your potential adds up to absolutely zero. Your leverage is gone. I bump into people day in and day out for the course of my life. That ride that train of fame that potential gives. They get caught up in being a superstar in their own locality without realizing that their potential is the key to the door in front of them, but they've still got to make the steps across the line. Your potential will open doors for you if you let it. Your potential will carry you light years ahead if you let it. But in order for it to do that, in order for that spark to become that furnace, in order for that spark to light that rocket that makes it out of the Earth's atmosphere and into the unknown, you've got to build the rocket, you've got to construct the fuel cells, you've got to plan the trajectory, and you've got to push the start button. As I said at the beginning of this recording here, in the beginning of this video, without the work, your potential means nothing.